wonderful and beautiful people out there. Welcome to another episode of Life in Conversation. I'm Shiwi.
I'm E.T.
And today we have our first guest. Please welcome Rob. So what's up, Rob?
Hello, my name is Rob or Robert. I've lived in Portland my whole life, about 33 years. I work at UPS, and one of my favorite things to do is learn survival skills.
That's something I definitely want to learn.
Yeah, that is. I mean, how would you survive in this place right now? Even going through daily stuff right now is surviving.
Right. Especially if society collapses. Sometimes, with the economy right now, who knows? It can just collapse with the inflation, the gas prices.
At least it's a useful skill. I mean, imagine if you don't even know how to survive. You just be baggage.
That or people will get cutthroat. They'll start cutting each other, stealing each other's stuff. Look at Black Friday, how people get...
The Purge.
The Purge, yeah. The Purge. The Purge would probably be more accurate than martial law would be declared, and then the National Guard would come in, and...
Yeah.
It'd be crazy.
Or it'll be like the Hunger Games.
Yeah, or the Hunger Games. Would you volunteer to be tribute? No answer. You're familiar with the Hunger Games, right?
Yeah, I watched it a little bit, but not really fully into it.
Battle Royale's better.
Oh yeah, Battle Royale.
Yeah, Battle Royale is better.
Wait, what is it?
It's came out way before Hunger Games, and it's this high school. I showed it to you, remember?
No.
It's the two Japanese high school, or the high school class, that they get kidnapped and taken to an island. They got these collars with these explosive device, and they have 3 days to kill each other with one winner remaining on top. If no one wins in 3 days, then the collars all explode.
Damn, that sounds like a good...
Oh, you've seen that movie?
I don't think I have, to be honest. I really don't think I have. I'll probably check it out. What's it called again?
Battle Royale.
Battle Royale.
Yeah.
Not the Battlefield? Like the game?
No, Battle Royale.
And the thing about survival skills, I think, is a lot of people just think of like surviving in the woods and how to start a fire and stuff like that. But I consider martial arts, I consider like being able to preserve food, how to use a gun, stuff like that is also survival skills that I don't think people think of.
For sure. Anything, I think of survival skills, anything where you can be self-sustained and independent and you can survive and hold your own, whether it's defense, food, shelter, like that all comes into play to me for survival.
Yeah. Well, I have kids at the house, so I got to survive the day with them.
Right? It's like, man.
I got a woman to be young. I got to survive the day, man. So
just taking one day at a time.
Exactly. I don't know what else.
That's one thing I like about the hunter-gatherer society, too, is that they live one day at a time. Like the Hazda tribe in Africa, that's the last true hunter-gatherer peoples that they've basically been unchanged in their lifestyle for 10, 12,000 years. And they just live day to day. And there were some people that go there and because they get studied kind of to give a glimpse into the past. And they ask them existential questions. What do you think about life or after death? And most of the time they have simple answers like, nah, we don't really think about that. We just enjoy each day as it comes. Like they're really living in the present.
What'd you say the name of the tribe was?
Hazda. It's either H-A-D-Z-A or H-A-Z-D-A. Hazda. I think it's the Hazda tribe.
Makes me think of the movie, the Gods Must Be Crazy.
The Gods Must Be Crazy. What's that about?
It's really just kind of eye-opening, but it's also a comedy. It's just about how this tribe, Kalahari Desert in Africa, they ended up having a Coca-Cola bottle drop into the middle of their tribe, and then it's kind of like
it's from the gods.
Yeah, right. And it's kind of like what civilization does to us. It shows like what it does to them. They can use this bottle for a lot of different things, but then they ended up fighting over it. And
damn.
And it shows how just like what that does to people.
Man, but you see, that was one of the questions that we were talking about. When you just said earlier, what was it? If we could live amongst each other or something without fighting or something.
Oh, we'll get to that later.
Oh, man, but I'm just saying.
You're like, I just itching for that. I'm itching for that.
No, but he did. I think he mentioned something earlier, too, as well, because I was asking him what race was he or nationality.
Oh, ethnic, yeah.
And then you talked right now about a tribe.
Oh, yeah.
He was
so if you're comfortable with sharing your tribal or ethnic background.
So, yeah, I'm a member of the Chinook tribe. My seventh grandmother back was a full-blooded member of the Chinook tribe, and she married a French-Canadian trapper.
Okay.
And,
Trapper? Like what's that?
like a person who
Traps?
traps animals and then uses the skins to sell them.
Oh, okay.
Furs and
Alright.
stuff like that.
I didn't know that's what they were called.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Basic.
Or-
I mean, I kind of got the hint that they trapped something.
So it was like 7 generations ago or something,
Yeah,
or what?
yeah, 7 generations ago.
Damn, that's actually not that far
So
along.
like 18. Her father died in 1830.
Yeah, as long as you at least got some history, I can't even remember who my great grandparents are.
Right.
I'm lost over here.
Especially in Mexico, where they didn't keep a lot of records, especially in the towns and the pueblos. Because, like, for example, if you're born in a pueblo back in the 50s, 30s, or before, it's not like here where they automatically document your time of birth, name, and everything. Like, you apply for that later. Because my mom tells me that for 3 months, I didn't have a name.
Really?
Yeah, because in Mexico
You
at
were
that time,
nameless?
it's like you didn't have to give the name at the baby at the hospital. So for 3 days, I was nameless. I'll get the baby.
You'll be one of those people that actually say, "What are you gonna name it?" That's his name.
So she had to submit my name and file the paperwork and for the paperwork for the documentation of my birth. So I've tried to trace in my ancestors through Ancestry and the world, but it's like I couldn't find records. I'd have to dig deeper. Because it's just, especially in the Pueblos, like they didn't document it as much. Especially if you were more indigenous.
Yeah, that's crazy though. You gotta really dig into your stuff and history stuff, and that's something that I don't really know. I got more people down over there, like in here in Oregon too. Salem, Woodburn, Lafayette, I think Albany. I don't know. Like just spread around. But that's one thing about when you have big families, they tend to just like go everywhere. The next thing you know, you lose connection, and I can see how. They would cross into each other's life and not knowing that they're related. And next thing you know...
I hope not in a bad way, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but you know how it gets lost pretty much in translation with all this. Yeah, that's crazy. But you said you were part like Native or a tribe or what?
Yeah, my grandfather's name was I can't remember his name right off but he was actually a chief.
Oh, that's cool.
So he's a pretty famous chief apparently. And he actually met Lewis and Clark.
Whoa.
So I'm told.
He bust out the pipe and started smoking with them. That's how I would think about
Want a toke?
Venture out, man.
We try to go to tribal meetings and stuff like that, but since COVID, I haven't been able to. Really.
I've been wanting to go to a powwow. I haven't went to a powwow since I was a kid. This lady that took care of me for a while, she was Native, and she took me to powwows and introduced me to the Native American culture, and I was just like blown away and mesmerized. Little did I know that at that time I had no idea that I was similar to them because we're so, modernized and colonialism and whatnot, stripping of us our identity. Mm-hmm. But do you know any words or language in Chinook? What's the language?
It's called Chinook Wawa.
Chinook Wawa.
Or they also have another language called Chinook Jargon, which was made up of a bunch of different languages like Spanish, French, some Japanese, Russian, I think, was in there even.
Is it really called a Chinook Jargon?
It was like a trade language that they used like throughout Oregon Territory at the time. It was called the Oregon Territory, which eventually became Oregon, Washington, Idaho, British Columbia.
Do you know any of the words?
I know to say hello it's really hard to say because there's like sounds that most people are not used to making, but it's like klahayam.
Klahayam?
Yeah.
I think I was actually going into like the native stuff and also with ancient, what's it called, the Nahuatl or something like that.
The Nahuatl?
Yeah, there you go.
Well, that's one
language.
Oh,
no, I know
Nahuatl.
that's one way, but I'm just saying like their languages, and it's so similar, so I don't know how.
Well, so Nahuatl, from what I've read, is what's called a Euro-Aztecan language. Yeah. So it has roots that are similar to some of the Native American languages in the United States. Mm-hmm. So similarly, I don't necessarily know. I'm still learning my history of who exactly my peoples were in Mexico, although I suspect it was the Nahuas, which is incorporated the Mexica, but other tribes too that spoke Nahuatl. And so there's some sounds in that language that's distinct, and it's hard for people to say. So the TL, like in the name Shiwit, most people say Shiwitl or like, for example, another one is Quetzalcoatl. They'll say Quetzalcoatl, the TL, but it's really, that TL sound is a distinct sound in that language, and it's basically like this. So it's you put the tongue on top of the roof of your mouth and you blow air to the sides. So instead of Quetzalcoatl, it's Quetzalcoatl.
Oh yeah, that's similar to the this one letter in Chinakwawa, which is like a TH L sound, like Quahayam.
Quahayam.
It's like a more of a guttural sound.
Yeah.
You know what I want to know is those people that are more like indigenous and two people from different sides will meet each other and just start talking about their whole stuff.
Oh, like me, two indigenous people, entirely different indigenous.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I would like to see
even
somebody
translate and talk to each other or something
through a mutual translator.
Yeah, probably.
But that would be cool, like having a video of different indigenous people, somebody from the Amazon rainforest, somebody from Mexico, somebody, the Aborigines in Australia, and then an indigenous person from Africa, and then have them sit down and talk about and share their cultures, stories, and have an interpreter. I think that would be cool.
Yeah, imagine that though.
Especially the outfits too.
But they'd be looking at each other like, man, what's he wearing?
What's he wearing?
Yeah, it's crazy. That's why I think they have the Olympics.
Although that started back in ancient Greece.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right.
But anyway, you were saying you wanted to talk a little bit because you disagreed a little bit with the millennial. How we were saying in the previous episode that I believe that millennials so far have been the ones that get most offended.
Yeah, what I was going to say about that is I think we just see it a lot more about them getting offended, but it's because millennials were the first generation to like have smartphones really and social media, and they just put it out there a lot more. Like baby boomers and the Generation X didn't really have as much of a...
That is true. I've heard that argument too, because we have smartphones, because social media, everybody has a platform and a voice, and they can voice their opinions, where before you had to write to the paper, call a radio show, write a book, magazine, whatever. Now anybody can upload a video on a rant or something, and they can create the illusion. But I still think that millennials get offended because not just the fact that the act of getting offended, but how they react. Sometimes they act like children, where they have tantrums. Like I seen videos when Trump was president, and people would get triggered just by the MAGA hat, and they'll start screaming like a child, and and like, what are you doing, man? You're having an adult tantrum. Or also the fact that I think also millennials get offended more because of so much political correctness going on. Like the changing of terms, like chairman now is more chairperson. Gingerbread man now is gingerbread person. Like, come on, really? It's a cookie. You're going to be politically correct about a fucking cookie?
Yeah, I think that political correctness has gone too far.
So it might be too distinct or tied, political correctness, being offended. But I still think it's really strong with this generation. And it's probably going to get stronger with the Gen Z.
I think it's more of, have you guys heard the term when they say speak into existence? So when they keep on talking about it, it becomes so. So like if they say, man, that guy's, or like you don't pay attention to it until somebody says it. Or like they say, oh, that guy's annoying, but it may not be annoying to you. But then next thing you know, all of a sudden, something's like getting to you, and now he's becoming more annoying.
Yeah,
you get that, like, or hey man, like it's like word of mouth just passing it by, and you tell like somebody, oh, this guy's really funny. Next thing you know, like, well, he is pretty funny. You know what I mean? Like, so when it comes out to millennials, I feel like that's how it is when people say, oh, they get offended or anything like that. Like they're so offensive, and the next thing you know, you pay attention to that. Next thing.
I will say though that there's different millennials. They're not all the same, and it's a stereotype too. And that's why I say, like, sometimes I hate being considered a millennial because I don't want to be grouped with the other kind of millennials that usually get that negative stereotype.
What considers a millennial though? I don't even know what this millennial.
I forget the exact years, but it's if you're born between like the early 80s to, I want to say, the mid 90s almost.
I want to fact check.
Yeah, somebody fact check that.
But I wouldn't even know exactly when.
And then, because I'm not sure if people born around the mid 90s to late 90s are millennials either. Because I know Gen Z, that's what this current generation is called, right?
I don't know.
It's like early 2000s.
The Gen Z thing is the ones with the pronouns shit, no?
So yeah, I think they're going to be even the ones that are worse, more offended and more politically correct because they're being taught that in the schools.
Yeah.
Anyone born between 1981 and 1996 is considered a millennial.
Oh,
Okay,
shit,
so yeah.
we're in it.
And
Okay.
anyone after that is considered Gen Z.
Shout out to all the fellow millennials out there.
Not really. But
And hey, don't get so offended all the time. Just take a step back.
I kind of used that lately, though. I used that as a card because I didn't want to be at work.
What?
The offensive thing, and I was just like, oh man, I didn't want to be here. So I was like, oh,
my feelings are hurt.
yeah.
I need my safe space.
Oh, but I'm gonna lose it, man.
Man.
I think the getting offended thing too is also it's something that has changed with because like in the baby boomers generation, I think people were more often just held it in.
That is true.
But then that also created problems because now they're like, oh, I don't need therapy, and then they just go like explode and kill somebody.
I see it more explosive than anything.
Yeah.
So it's.
But I mean, I like that type of talk too, though. I mean, I don't know if somebody tells me something off, I'll be okay. So now I know at least what you're thinking and feeling.
Ding,
I'd rather.
let's get it on. Oh, it's on.
It depends how they let it out, though. It's like just talking or bring a gun to work or something.
I don't know about that.
Going postal.
Yeah.
Speaking of guns, I did actually it just popped in my head because there was one thing that I was checking out. I know this is off topic, but have you heard of ghost guns?
Yeah, where they're untraceable.
Yeah, that shit is actually it's going like it's tripling in one place. It's like 5 times now the rate because of ghost guns and shit.
Really?
Yeah. So it's getting out of hand. But I mean, let's just keep that on the low because yeah. But it's cool, ghost guns.
Yeah.
But anyways, you were on something else. I just got distracted. My mind just went from here to the one thing.
But before we move on, I just want to introduce something. So I like to call this the useless fact of the day. So a little backstory of that. Me and E.T., when we were in middle school, with a couple other friends back then, we would often just once a day, one of us would just say a random, interesting, but ultimately useless fact. And we would joke about it. It's like, that's the useless fact of the day. So a fun fact is that the first known person to plant wheat in the Americas. Do you know who that is, Rob? I'm going to let you take a guess.
Right.
First known person.
The first person that is credited as planting wheat in the Americas.
Oh, that must have been my great-great-grandfather because we were trying to make some beer. We were discovering
Maybe
alcohol.
it was like, let's make some beer.
I don't know who was it.
So it was a black conquistador whose name was Juan Garrido. Juan Garrido, and he was a conquistador that he was also with Cortez and fought against the Mexica, and he planted it. He retired afterwards, many years later, and became a farmer, and he is credited as planting wheat, the first one to plant wheat in the Americas.
Wow.
And I read that when I was reading the history of Mexico, the Mexica, the Olmecs, and I was like, what? So credit to all the brothers out there.
Where was he actually from?
He's from Spain. I haven't looked further into it, but he was from Spain, I believe, or Portugal.
There was this book that I was looking into, and it was called "The Indies of." But it was a good book, and it was talking about like back then when that was going on, when the conquistadors and all that information. It was just crazy.
And a lot of people don't know too is that conquistadors brought black slaves, and over time those black slaves. They settled in Mexico too, and some of them gained their freedom, but there was communities of black people there. And so fellow brown people out there that do their ancestry tests, if you see a 1 or 2% African in your DNA, it's not because how we all came from Africa, how the human race came from Africa and spread out, because the ancestry DNA doesn't go back that far, but it's because within our ancestors we had a African relative or a relative of African descent. Because of the Spanish that brought them over.
Oh, wow, that is interesting.
Also, the Asian people, too, they also brought Chinese people.
Really?
Yeah. Because, like, right now in Mexico, there's a big Chinese community and also Japanese people. And that just blew my mind. That blew my mind. They have their versions of Chinatown down there, too. Chinese communities. Did you know, too, that they even have white Mormon communities in Mexico?
Really?
Yeah, although it's probably not as big and they're more closer to the border. I don't think they're deep within the middle or southern Mexico, but it's Mormons, and I suspect it's the fundamental Mormons that still practice polygamy.
Oh, yeah.
And they probably left the United States so they can practice.
That kind of makes sense because they settled in what was technically Mexico at the time. So.
Yeah, and I read that they have compounds there and they have armed guards guarding the compounds. And it makes sense. I mean, you got cartels down there.
Yeah, the northern Mexico is like
it's a war zone.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so the book is called Historia de las Indias de Nueva España. It's by Diego Duran. So
Translation?
well, it's like saying history of the Indians or something. I don't know, but yeah, it just shows like look, it shows when they discovered like even when the eagle and all that like has pictures and or old art.
You know about that story? I just want to touch on it a little. Okay, are you familiar with the symbolism of the eagle and the serpent of the Mexican flag? Do you know the history of that?
No, I'm not.
So that comes from Mexica Aztec legend that they believed in their stories that in their histories they wrote that they wandered from their homeland Aztlan. The Aztecs came from a place called Aztlan along with other Nahuas, and because it's theorized that Aztlan was somewhere in middle to southern United States or northern Mexico, and they traveled for several hundred years until they reached central Mexico, the Valley of Mexico, and they were the last indigenous tribe to arrive there. Anyway, they say that their god, Huitzilopochtli, told them that the land that they will settle in, they'll know because they'll see an eagle on a cactus eating a snake. And when they see that, that's when they know that's where their new home will be. But I question that theory. Not that they believed it, but because when I was reading the history, the third king, Tlatoani, that's what they were called, of Tenochtitlan, which was their capital, when Itzcoatl,
I thought it was Tenochtitlan.
no, didn't I say that? Tenochtitlan. So Itzcoatl, the third ruler, he burned a lot of their history books, kind of rewrote their own history to make them like the chosen people and their god, Huitzilopochtli, the primary god. And his advisor, Tlacaelel, was the one who was credited as advising him to do that, to kind of reshape their future by recreating or rewriting their history. So sometimes I wonder, like, was that story with the legend of the prophecy with the eagle, was that just written in after they already settled to kind of create a legend? Or did they actually believe it and then it just continued with writing in their history? So that's,
yeah, I feel like that's how the Mexico was formed instead, not through like the ancient times before like Aztecs and all that. That's what I feel. I don't know if it's true, but
no, the eagle thing, that's specifically to the Mexica, not to Mexico itself.
But is it Mexica a form of saying Mexico?
No, well, when I say Mexica, I meant to the specific people, the Aztecs, as opposed to...
Oh, okay, I get you.
Because, yeah, Mexico gets the name from Mexica, the Aztecs, but the Mexica... Because when I say Mexica, that's what they were called. That's what they call themselves. Aztecs was a scholarly name that was given to them, like, 200-300 years ago or 100 years ago by some scholars, the Aztec, but they called themselves Mexica.
It reminds me like America, but then they changed it into Americo.
Americo, or something like that, right? Or gringos, And or they were also alternatively called in their time the Tenochca, I believe, short for Tenochtitlan. Anyway, let's move on to our question. So, I just want to start off with a little one, and it's, what gets you up in the morning? What drives you, Rob?
What drives me? Well, I think that I have to save money, trying to build a survival school, and so I need to save money for that, and I also need to save money for learning survival skills, and I also want to change the world for the better by teaching something called bioregionalism.
Yeah.
Bioregionalism?
We were talking about that briefly. I remember thinking,
what's that, though?
Fuck? But it sounded fascinating.
So it's basically to have regions.
I feel like made up words right now.
Hey, like Thor said, all words are made up.
True.
All words are made up.
To have areas instead of like states and countries, but you have like areas that are based on watersheds and water cycles.
Okay.
And so to instead have those kinds of borders, not like a state that's, you draw a line and say, okay, this is what this is, to instead use the water cycles to delineate things, and also where food is grown. And I think that's just a much better way to...
Was it one of those filtration places, the water
yeah,
places?
like water basin, like things like that. And then to have... bioregionalism says that, you have to do things in an ethical way, like protecting the water sources, protecting the earth. And
yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I feel like the way the system is now, it can be better. Like, this is not the best we can do. And to kind of like briefly touch back on the hunter-gatherer, as much as I admire the hunter-gatherer lifestyle and how our ancestors used to be, there's no going back to that. Yeah. I just want to say that right out of the cat's out of the bag, the genie's out of the bottle, there's no going back.
8 billion people were not going to go back
to
that, unfortunately.
I mean, even if it got down to 100 million, 1 billion people, just the fact that we know now farming and agriculture, there's no going back to that.
We have too much, so we just can't.
So now the question is, okay, how do we move forward? How can we make it better? Avoiding the problems that agriculture brought and a lot of the destruction, pollution. I believe we can, that is a solution that you said, that's a good idea. And I believe we should look towards ideas to make things better without affecting the planet as much. Not to sound like a hyper-environmentalist, but, I feel like we could do a better job.
Tree hugger.
They have feelings too, damn it. But... how can we make this world better, not just for us humans? Because I feel like most of the time when people talk about even the environment, they talk about mostly better for us humans. But I feel we have to incorporate all life, not just us humans, but other plants and animals. And we put too much emphasis on our well-being.
I don't believe all life is really good, though.
So yeah, we'll get into that right now.
If I'm just saying.
Does all life value equally?
I believe that each organism or life form in the universe has its place, and so in that way, yes, each life is equal.
Now, years ago, when we had the debate, I was like, no, there's some that have more importance than others, and now I see the light, or I see it in a different perspective. And yeah, every organism does play a part, and we may not know it, and sometimes we could think of that creature as, like, oh, it's not important. They went extinct, but we don't know the role, that's why.
Exactly.
We don't know what part it took in it.
There are a few exceptions, though. Like fleas can go.
Yeah,
there's no purpose for fleas.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, there's some like the parasites. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They could just take off.
Flies can go.
Well, I mean, flies are food for spiders, and they also
true.
They do consume decaying matter and things.
Okay, but ticks and fleas can go.
And then like mosquitoes are something that a lot of people say, oh, those can go, but actually those are food for a lot of other things.
That is true.
So we don't know the part that each organism plays, no matter how annoying or how small it is.
But to play devil's advocate, though, to say that all life is valued equally, so if a person dies, that doesn't hold the same weight if a bee or a fly or an ant or even like a little rat.
Because there's thousands and thousands or millions of them, and then what the human life is one.
I mean, think of how many bugs and things like that are there. So I mean, we don't consider that the same because we don't. I mean, they're everywhere. We don't think of it, but it's like, they do play a part.
However, though, I'm kind of still in the middle in that while I don't think humans are at the top of importance, I believe humans are a part of a category that's at the top in terms of sentience, because there's some animals or living organisms that just operate on instinct and don't really have sentience, don't feel, don't have pain.
So, I mean, what I would say about that is we may not consider them to be like sentient or intelligent, but I mean, I think each organism has an intelligence for what it is. Like a fly knows how to be a fly. So, I mean,
natural instincts.
And it knows... I mean, we don't know how to be a fly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in that way, I mean, they have an intelligence that...
You could fool my daughter. She thinks she's a cat sometimes.
But the thing is it intelligence? Because let's say of a computer program, you program it, it acts the way the program versus a computer program that thinks for itself and can change its programming.
Okay, so now how would you categorize what has intelligence? Like, would you go from like humans to like, would you say a dog is intelligent?
Oh yeah, dogs are very intelligent. I believe dogs are sentient They feel pain. They have emotions.
Some talk.
They have memories. They
Yeah,
dream.
I was just gonna say about talking. There's this one thing called "What About Bunny?"
What is it? A video or?
It's like I think it's an Instagram page, but there's this dog and there's this researcher, and she has like these buttons that have words on them, and the dog will touch them and
Communicating.
it'll speak,
Yeah.
and it'll speak out. The buttons will speak.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
But is it trained to do
I would
that,
put
or
one
is
by
it
the
on its
door.
own?
I would put one by the door that says outside.
Did it construct the sentence on
It
its
actually
own?
constructs sentences. Like she'll just ask it random things, and it'll say
The answer.
an actual answer.
Okay.
And so I mean, it's hard not to think, okay, maybe these animals actually have more intelligence than we give them credit for.
I think an octopus would be a good experiment on that.
There's a good documentary that it's been recommended to me, and it's been on my to-watch list called My Teacher the Octopus or something like that. You've seen that?
I don't think I have. No.
Have you? It's a relationship or a friendship between a human and an octopus, I believe. I'm not really sure, but I was told that it's a fascinating documentary, and it shows how intelligent octopuses are, or octopi.
They're actually one of my
plural.
favorite, what do you call those, amphibians? No, for an octopus, whatever would they be considered as?
Octopus?
A type of animal.
Oh, I can't remember the
because they're not fish.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Something pod, I think.
Maybe.
I don't know, but they're my favorite.
So I feel like I believe there's a category, not necessarily importance, but of more of a, I don't know, hierarchy, or
have you seen
where
the
it's
movie?
like sentient, where they can feel pain, think, critical think, emotions, and a lot of animals have that. Dolphins, mammals, octopi, even crows. Like crows are considered one of the smartest birds, or if not the smartest.
Yeah, I was about to say that too with the crows.
So, what about rats? Do you think rats are intelligent?
Yeah, rats are intelligent, very intelligent.
So where do you think that
They survive.
where do you think the intelligence stops between like the hierarchy of these animals that you're putting them in, like a hierarchy of they have intelligence or don't have intelligence? Like you don't think a fly has intelligence, but I mean.
Well, I would say they have intelligence in terms of instinct, because they're not stupid enough to just stay around and get smacked. If you try to smack them, they seem to fly even harder and harder to hit.
Motherfucker doesn't know how to go out the window though.
But so I
He's
believe
stuck in the same spot.
I believe they do act on instinct more than they actually do self-awareness and actually go against their natural programming. Because like a human can rewrite their human programming, so to speak. They can kind of change their pattern of behavior, whereas flies usually stick to the behavior. Like what we would consider basic life forms usually stick to their pattern of behavior, where humans and other mammals can be completely diverse.
Well, I mean, at the same, like a fly only has the intelligence that it has, so I mean, it's not going to be able to do anything other than what a fly can do.
Exactly. So if you smack it, so what? If you squish it, so what? But if you hit over a fox or a rat or a squirrel, that's more like, oh no, poor squirrel.
Yeah, it's because we see it like, we can see their face. We consider them to have like.
That is true. They're more humanized.
We can see like, we think they're cute. We see them like on videos and stuff. So I mean,
well, some of them are cute though.
You can pet them. I mean, but we don't consider a fly to be cute because it's just a fly.
Yeah, I seen the fly. That's not cute. Help me. Oh man, you seen The Fly with Jeff Goldblum?
That was disgusting. Have you seen the original?
The original one, the black and white one?
Yeah.
Just clips of it. I'd have to check it out, just a comparison. So that's like an example of a good remake, because I know people shit on remakes that they usually suck, and they usually do. But every now and then, a remake of an original movie, the remake is better. So The Fly was a 50s black and white horror, air quote, movie.
Oh, damn.
And in today's standards, it would be like, what? This isn't scary at all. But back then...
I was like in a movie of the one with something, I think it was called something apartment. And it said his name and then apartment, and it had cockroaches.
Oh, that's Joe's apartment.
Joe's apartment?
No, so you ever seen The Simpsons, the Treehouse of Horror episode where Bart is turning into a fly?
Yeah,
so that's where they got it from that movie. It was a parody. So the fly is a scientist. He creates this teleportation device that's like you get in a little pod and you teleport to the other pod. So, but when he gets into one pod, the fly, before he closes the door, goes in, and then like their DNA gets scrambled together, and then he appears in the next one, and then over the course of days or weeks, he slowly starts becoming a fly, and it's gross.
You've asked me a question like that before, way before if a about crossbreeding, but or something like that with different species. But I don't think that was possible. I don't know if it was you or somebody asked me that, if it was possible or something.
Do you think it's possible to, like, as DNA splicing and what's that called? That flicker or whatever it's called. I forgot what it's called.
Oh yeah.
Like gene manipulation and DNA. Do you think we can have in the future humans can gain animal attributes
I don't know.
based on gene splicing?
I think with gene splicing, it would be.
Or if it even gene splicing, I don't know. I'm just talking out of my ass.
Yeah, I know. Whatever, some kind of
Well, gene
technology.
manipulation, yeah.
Whatever, I think that I think it probably is possible. I mean, I think they're probably going to try to do it
because why not? And of course, it's the reason because of super soldiers. We got to get the DNA so that soldiers can run faster.
It's always going to be a military.
I think that's where the steroids came, when they were trying to make their soldiers stronger.
Well, as much as we like to hate on the military-industrial complex, a lot of modern technology. Well, I'm saying as a society, especially current society, they downplay war, military, but a lot of our development and technology is because of the military. For example, the GPS system was first used by the military many years before it hit the public sector. Microwaves was also first used by the military.
I always feel like
the internet,
technology. The public, I think, what I think is that we're like 10 years behind than we're
it's
actually
like 20 years.
Yeah, or something.
I remember reading it was 20 years. Maybe now because just technology is advancing fast, it's probably 10 years.
Yeah.
But at one point, it was like 20, 30 years
and they're
behind.
just giving it to us little by little and little.
So I wonder sometimes if the UFOs that have been sighted, if there's two camps, one that, well, there's several, but whether they are UFOs or whether they're technology that some group or government has secretly that they're testing out. And some of this shit is crazy. Like, have you looked into some of the videos that the Air Force has officially admitted that it's not us and we don't know what they are? And they have capabilities of technology unlike anything we have seen.
I have not looked at any of the videos.
So there's, I'll send you a couple of links after we're done with the show. But there's one video where it's called the Tic Tac, and the Air Force pilot that saw it was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he talks about they were doing a test flight, and they saw what looked like a Tic Tac shaped craft, and it was going really fast, and they couldn't catch up with it, and the radar systems were having a hard time catching up with it. And it doesn't show it because some of the videos are classified, but apparently there was a small fleet of them because you can hear them on the radio like, oh, wow, there's a whole fleet of them.
Yeah.
And then the fact that they can accelerate at a super high speed so quickly and then stop almost instantly.
Yeah.
And they can go like omnidirectional. It's not like a traditional plane where they just go forward momentum. Like they can go backwards, circular, and they don't know what it is. And when they...
I've been wanting to explain that day. I mean, I ran out of beer, so me and my homies had
You
to
were
go.
drunk, you were lost.
We had to go to the store real quick.
But there's in other videos too where people have seen and they're like, we don't know what this is. This thing like just took off like nothing, and we have nothing that can take off that fast. And there's some too where they've seen them go in the water at high speeds, and it just goes in the water like butter. Like it's not affected by the water, and then it comes out. And there's one where I believe it's from Peru, where it's a Peruvian airport, and cameras capture of unidentified object, and it's flying, and it goes into the water, and then it comes out and it splits in two.
Wow.
And were you aware of that? Back last year, Trump had signed with I think the second or third stimulus check that Congress or the military has like 6 months, I believe, or more to disclose all they know about UAPs, I think they're calling them now, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
I had not heard about that.
So yeah, it was quietly announced, and it was briefly reported here and there, and then I was looking forward to that because I wanted to see what would come up. I knew they were going to declassify everything, but I was just curious what. But apparently in the end, I didn't fully look into it, but it was underwhelming. They just basically said, we don't know what they are.
Oh yeah, I think I did hear something about
So I was like, all that hype.
We admit that there are UFOs, things that we don't know what they are, but we're not saying that they're aliens necessarily.
Yeah, they're not saying it's aliens, but they do admit that there is objects out there that they have encountered that
that's why
have
they
technology.
Call them UFOs, because it's on flying object, and then people take UFO aliens, you know.
Well, they call them now UAPs. I get it because UFOs, tinfoil hat, little green men.
Yeah.
So to avoid that stereotype, they went with UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomenon.
Okay.
But there's another guest. Shout out to Vincent. If you're listening, gonna have you on, man. He gets deep into that. He knows a lot more about that than I do.
What, aliens?
The UFOs, UAPs, a lot of stuff. He's said, if I remember correctly, that he's seen UFOs.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, I'm going to have them in the future.
He's not smoking any shit when he's seeing them, right?
I mean, I would hope not. We were at work when we were talking.
He's on psychedelics.
Psychedelics, just tripping out at
No
work.
wonder you're seeing it.
Yeah.
Oh, right. But do you think we can change the world for the better?
I do believe so, yes.
I do too.
Can we, or
Can we? Yes, can we? Like, or
I mean,
is it
well,
just,
I mean,
is just it?
we can, but will we? I mean,
That is the
not
thing.
necessarily, because I mean, it's like I was saying, we always constantly fighting, and not everybody can see eye to eye and be on the same page. Everyone has their own agendas. So, can we make it? Yeah, we can, but will we? Would we ever be on the same page?
That depends. It's going to have to take, I believe it's going to have to take us as a collective, not an individual. I mean, individual can still change the
As a
world.
collective, so then it's like, what, like a democracy, which is going on and not
No,
working?
not necessarily voting, but I firmly believe in the saying that says, be the change you wish to see in the world. I believe it was Gandhi that said that.
Well, it always starts with you, right?
Yeah, change always starts with you. But I feel my perspective and belief is that people are sitting on their ass waiting for change to happen. They complain the world sucks, or
Instead of-
life is terrible.
Instead
It's
of
like,
talking about it, do something.
yeah,
about
like
it.
then be part of the solution, be part of the change, and it starts with you. I believe. We gotta
What if
change
your change
ourselves.
is fucking it up, actually?
Or your change is some kind of dystopia or dictatorship.
Yeah.
Control. We have to have control.
Yeah, that makes
Putin,
you know
yeah.
we're in this. That's why we're in this predicament.
Well, when
See
I
what
say
mean?
change, I mean not change for the benefit for a select few, but a benefit to all, or the common good.
Yeah, there was.
And-
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say one saying I like is if not you, who?
Yeah.
That's another way I've heard it, but
I don't know him. Them, not me.
Yeah, not me.
Not me. I'm busy. I'm watching Netflix.
Is that leave me alone?
I don't know if either of you are familiar with Star Trek, but I believe it may end up being something like what would happen with Star Trek. They had a World War III, and then after that, people eventually finally started getting their shit together, and they were able to change
Yeah.
for the better.
I feel like the one way we would unify and actually be on the same page would be if we actually encounter like a different species, or like, let's say, aliens or whatever. But once our human as a race, like, it's in danger, I think everybody will see like, oh shit, we really gotta stick together now and really pinpoint on what's happening. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if we're just with amongst ourselves, where everyone has their own agendas, we're all selfish, we're all trying to figure out what's better for us or for, like, let's say, our country. We're not thinking about other countries, because that's their stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
are you saying like if an alien came
and tries to like exterminate us or something.
as an extraterrestrial, an extraterrestrial threat? So I have thought of that, but I feel that's a temporary peace between humans. Yeah, we'll all put our political bullshit differences aside and unite for a common threat. However, I feel if we win and eliminate that threat, we might just go back to fighting each other, and even worse, because we'll salvage that alien tech, and now we'll start having laser warfare and who knows what else, anti-gravity bombs.
So what do you think will bring us together then?
I feel like like I said, I believe it starts with yourself. You have, and then work your way from that. Start with yourself, be the change. And I know people say that, but in a way, I believe it's by working on yourself, making sure you're in a right mental state, taking care of yourself spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and then how you view the world, as instead of viewing another person either as a threat or a nuisance or enemy, like whether it's political parties or different countries, look at them as a fellow human being and looking at them and looking at the similarities rather than the differences. Because ultimately that's what unites us is the similarities, our common humanity. They're a person to, they have their goals, they want what's best for their family and themselves. And how do we can create that for all of us?
And what do you think, bro?
There's something from the book Ishmael I told you about.
Yeah, I need to reread that book.
At the end of the book, I don't want to give away too much, but there's a thing where it's talking about if humanity can survive long enough, not exterminate itself and the entire on all life on the planet. If we can survive long enough for other species on the planet to evolve, then we can make sure that they don't make the same mistakes that we made.
Yeah.
And
So imagine if that was their goals too. In like when, let's say that the gods that they came here and then they wanted that kind of change for us, but then we were still going through the same cycle. So they gave up on us and took off.
Yeah, you guys are on your own, man. There's a failed experiment.
That's what I'm saying. So, that he just probably realized that there's no hope for them.
While people are praying to their gods, little did they know they abandoned us. They moved on. That's plan B, experiment B.
On to the next planet.
Wasn't there a movie where they did that or something?
I don't remember.
No, it wasn't gods, but they were like, okay, we're just going to exterminate Earth because they've
Oh, are you thinking about Prometheus? Because that was.
Oh, you know what?
It wasn't explicitly
I think it was similar,
told.
something like that.
Yeah, because it wasn't explicitly told, but it was implied that the engineers, the alien species that seeded life on Earth, they, for whatever reason, changed their mind. And so one of the last ones that they woke up in the movie was getting ready to take off on the ship and drop like this bioweapon on Earth. But they killed They killed him before he could take off.
Oh, yeah. I think I was thinking of
And then it's like they asked him, why do you hate us? Man, that movie left me angry because it gave me more questions than answers.
Oh, yeah.
And then we never got those answers in the sequel, which was Alien Covenant, because they kind of rebooted it again.
I forgot about Prometheus, but I think I was thinking of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, you seen that?
No,
Oh, the movie's all right, but the book is funny.
Yeah, it's.
Or the audio.
Explain it.
How would you explain it?
What was it? It's like a whole bunch of alien species are like watching what's going on Earth. It's like a TV show. It's like,
okay. They actually did something like that on The Simpsons.
And then it's like, the ratings of Earth drop. Sorry, your planet's being exterminated.
Yeah, it's set to be demolished. So
getting off network.
they announced to the world, everybody, like, attention, Earth, you are being exterminated. And I forgot how much time, short time. Unless you can appeal to something court, the galactic court, and people are like, what? We didn't even know the existence of aliens. They're like, where? What the? So Earth gets destroyed, and a couple of survivors go with these, what was it, aliens or?
I think they were aliens.
They're aliens, yeah, and it's like a comedic sci-fi story.
I think I've seen something. I think I have seen a little bit, because that little part right there sounds familiar.
That babble fish concept I love. It's a little fish or like a life form that goes in your ear, and then you can basically understand and speak all languages.
Well, it's crazy.
It was called a babble fish.
That was cool.
But yeah, I think it's going to take all of us together, working together, and I know that sounds, many people have said that, but we keep doing the same shit. I see we keep expecting change, but we keep doing the same thing. And it's like the saying goes, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing, expecting different results. So I feel like that's what we've been doing for the past 5,000, more 10,000 years. We've just been doing the same thing, hoping our politics work, hoping our democracy work, or voting, or society or governments get it right. But I ultimately feel like it ultimately comes down to us as an individual, starting with us, and then in our homes, within our media families, and then just spread out from there.
I'm afraid to say that I think it might get worse before it gets better. Like in Star Trek, they have the World War III, with nukes and shit, and then they finally end up figuring it out. And
well, you can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes that's what it takes. Like how you were saying with the question, is it better? What's better or worse, evading the consequences of your actions or getting away with it. And
Oh,
it's
yeah,
like
I did
if you evade the consequences and you never learn, but if you suffer the consequences, yeah, it might suck, but hopefully you learn and you don't repeat that same mistake. And unfortunately, us humans are very stubborn.
We repeat the same
We
pattern.
repeat the same shit, and especially if people don't know their history. And as the saying goes, if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Yep.
And we're seeing that.
It's still happening.
It's still happening.
Yeah. We make a lot of mistakes over and over.
I guess that's when the term comes. We're just humans.
We're just humans. Yeah, but I feel that's a two-edged thing for me because, yeah, we are human and we're not perfect, but at the same time, I see people use it as an excuse to not even try or bother.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm just human, as an excuse for their bad behavior. You know, their immoral acts. Like, I'm just human, man.
It's okay if I'm an asshole.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm an asshole. I'm
A
sorry.
human
I
error.
ran that pedestrian over. I'm just human, man. That's what humans do.
Yeah.
Well, but just because what we naturally want to do doesn't make it the right choice.
I got a moral dilemma. Do you want me to go with it or
Shoot.
Okay, so we was talking about one of this. You know how we talk about moral dilemmas, but one of the ones it's kind of relative to what we're talking about and everything what we're saying. But it's called hit and run.
Alright.
So this one's late one night. You're driving home in a bad rainstorm. A drunk reels out in front of you of your car, and you try to stop, but you hit him. Nobody sees you. The guy looks and smells as if he's homeless. You check to see how badly he is hurt and realize he is dead. You have never even had a speeding ticket and are upright professional with a family and well known and respectable in your community. Do you make a report anonymously, confess your crime, or drive on home? Forget about it. No one knows. No one is going to pursue the death of this homeless drunk.
Well, what's the saying go? See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. No. Oh, man. Okay, so you hit a homeless person. Nobody saw it. Do you report it? Turn yourself in?
I believe that you should report
Oh, I mean,
it.
yeah, you should. But the question is, will you, though? That's the
Yeah.
thing. I mean, we know what the right thing is.
I believe I would.
You would?
I think I would, yeah.
Because if you don't, then you would be charged with a hit and run.
And
And if they find you.
If they find you.
and I mean,
If.
it's a big if, but I mean,
You'll never catch me alive.
and it's like, if you do report, I mean, you probably wouldn't get charged with a crime because it's like it was really hard for you to see, and the guy just like stumbled into your car.
Oh, in that case, I report it. No, I would report it too, and I'd be like, fuck. But I'm the type person that works towards owning up to their mistakes and manning up. And even though it's tough, that's the right thing to do. Because what if that was you, or that was a brother or a relative that was having a hard time, homeless, and you hear they got killed by hit and run?
Mm-hmm.
You know, wouldn't you be mad?
You want to know who that person
Who did
was?
it, you know? Or
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, imagine if you had you were an ex-felon, you're on your third strike. What happens? You're not supposed to be driving.
But if it wasn't your, yeah. But it also, even in that case, you should man up. But if it wasn't your fault, especially if you have one of those dash cams, that's why I advise people having dash cams, although I still need to get one myself. But that way you can record everything that goes on while you're driving, whether you know something when you're driving or you're away and somebody hits your car. Because I had my car hit on a previous car, and like, motherfuckers, because they hit the front and like broke one of the light bulbs.
Oh shit!
So I had to go to the junkyard and get another one because it was like $100 just for the light thing, not the bulb itself, but the whole light part.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I should have got that dash cam, and I still need to get one. But
So if it was an animal, would you still report it, or would you like take off? Let's say you hit an animal. Or
it depends on the animal, because if it's a dog, yes, but a squirrel.
Squirrel, I don't think.
Not that I don't care about the squirrel, but I mean, I don't think anybody.
That goes back to
where do I report it?
Is an animal more valuable than the human life?
I don't think so. I think that's like what Rob said, is just a human construct that we have constructed for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks if you did hit a squirrel, but it's like, I don't think that they're gonna. If it was a deer, yeah, they're gonna like.
Yeah, but even so,
You start crying.
somebody has to report it because they get cleaned up. Roadkill gets cleaned up.
For a squirrel?
Squirrel, cat, I see, because, well, maybe not a squirrel, but sometimes I see like a rotting or a squirrel with maggots.
Usually it's an ODOT.
Is it?
Yeah.
So I know they get reported.
ODOT.
But it's more just a cleanup report rather than like, the poor life of this animal that was lost.
Yeah.
You start crying.
Give it a funeral.
Give it a little ceremony.
Oh, I do admit,
there.
like when I see squirrels dashing in front of my car up ahead,
Do you slow down
I either
or do you
slow
swerve?
down or I try to swerve. I'll be like,
I
"Go,
just keep
squirrel."
going.
I'll be like, no, squirrel.
I'm not gonna slow down. I'm not gonna swerve. I just keep going.
Well, I'm not gonna like sharp swerve, just like a slight turn.
I'm not gonna risk my life for a little
It's like
tiny
that
ass
Geico
animal.
commercial where the squirrel jumps out and the car goes crashing up.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got him.
that was a Geico commercial. But yeah.
Oh man, that reminds me back like 10, 12 years ago on the news, I had read an article that this guy was killed because a driver was driving at night and a cat ran in front of it. So he swerved to avoid the cat and he hit the person that was walking on the side of the road and killed him. So he swerved to save the cat but ended up killing a person.
Damn! Imagine that though. That's. Would you?
Probably problem. Would you divert the car?
When you
couldn't hurt the cat.
Well,
and kill it.
you wouldn't know that person's there until you hit him.
Yeah, until it was too late. You already turned.
Yeah.
You know.
But at the same time, how fast was that person driving? Because I think it was a highway. It wasn't like a city street.
And what if it was a back roads?
Because I think so, because you would see the person, even if you're driving fast, that there's a person. So it's probably a highway where it wasn't well lit.
Yeah.
And it was probably a black cat. That's just something that popped in front. You're like, oh, shit.
You ever drove it by 99E or Highway 101 going to the beach?
Oh, yeah.
Nothing but trees.
Oh, it's dark at night. You turn off your headlights for a quick second. It's just dark. It's pitch black.
Once on Highway 26, couldn't see shit.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like, man, it's like that movie Wrong Turn where you got hillbillies in there with like the spikes, on the road to capture people.
Yeah.
Travelers.
Kind of like am I thinking the right movie, The Silent Hill?
No, Silent Hills were like ghost
The Hills Have Eyes?
The Hills Have Eyes, yeah.
That one?
Like that too, yeah.
Yeah, imagine that here in Oregon.
Man, but
Tree peoples.
But yeah, I definitely would report it for that for that person, yeah.
And then for the animal, you wouldn't?
It depends on the size. Like a deer, because I mean that's a big body that they have to take care of. Whereas like a little squirrel, but I wouldn't say that deer's life is more value than the squirrel. It's just that it's more the procedures of reporting. A deer is taken more seriously than a squirrel.
You also have to consider that, I mean, a deer is a source of food for people, so like...
Squirrels too?
Yeah, you're right, but I mean...
Hey, Bubba, we got squirrel dinner tonight.
On that note, my grandmother actually had a recipe for cooking squirrel.
Oh, really?
Man. Honestly, I'm down to try squirrel, but a wild squirrel,
like
not
rodent.
a city squirrel.
I mean, deer is almost considered a rodent, to be honest.
Deer? No,
yeah.
deer.
Long cousin of a...
No, they're...
Yeah.
No.
Look it up. Why do you think they shit out pebbles and stuff like that?
What?
Not a rodent.
But it's a...
to be continued on this.
It's a long cousin of the fucking rodents.
What?
Yeah.
Like a distant
We're all
cousin?
cousins of the rodents.
Yeah, we're mammals.
No, we would be cousins of the chimps and apes and stuff like that.
No, but we actually are descended from like rodents. If you go way back.
The mammals, the first mammals, and then they evolved into the primitive apes that we have in common.
Well, to be continued on that too.
Yeah, to be continued.
I don't know, man, but yeah, it's you got this. Fuck, he just distracted me. I was gonna. Oh, okay. Then there's another one that's the same thing, but like kind of like that. But let's say you're a dog. Let's say you grew up with this dog. You have history with this dog. He's drowning in a fucking in the lake, but you have a stranger, but it's human, and he's drowning too. But you don't know the guy. Who would you save?
Repeat that again? I need time to sink in.
You have your long life companion, your animal, your pet, your dog. He's in the lake, but he's drowning. And then you have also a stranger, a person, a human, in the water. He's also drowning. Who do you save?
And there's no way to save both of them.
There's no
time to save both.
No, there's not. No
You
time.
can
have
only
to
act
pick
fast
one.
to save one. Maybe, is it the fact that I'm taking this long to think about it troubling?
No, actually.
I mean, all pet owners or pet parents or owners, whatever you like to call it, if you got dogs, cats, you can relate, man. We love those critters. We love those animals. They're part of us. They're our family. And it's kind of like, it's like asking, would you save your brother or a random stranger? Would you save a family member or a random stranger?
Yeah, I know.
Just because he's a dog, that's still our family.
Well, that's what we're talking about. What would you value more, an animal or a human? Or is it which one's more valuable or more important?
Oh, man.
A human life or an animal?
I wouldn't say which one's more important. I mean, because obviously my dog is going to be more important than a random stranger.
Well, you're talking about relationship right there.
Yeah, but I'm saying obviously, yeah, but in terms of in that moment, saving a life.
I'm talking about a life, yeah.
I might not even be thinking like that. I might just act to whoever's closest.
True.
Yeah.
Whoever I can, the immediate.
What if they're the same
But the same distance, I would save my dog. Because a human would have a higher chance of survival than a dog.
Yeah. You?
I was going to say... First I was going to say the dog, then I was like, well, maybe the person, actually.
You would just say, fuck my dog. Yeah. Fuck, you can swim, motherfucker, swim.
He looks at you like,
gives you the puppy eye look.
gives you that,
while he's drowning.
That one paw like up in the air, like, fuck you.
He's fading into the abyss. He
goes underwater, and the last thing you see is his paw sticking out of the water, like giving you the bird.
The last of the air bubbles just coming up.
Or like Arnold in Terminator 2 with the thumbs up, but instead of going down, it's his finger.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh, man. But
but it is said that when I looked at that up, 2/3 of people would actually do that. So like over 60% would actually pick their animal over a human life. So that's that. I mean, shoot, if my dogs were drowning, I probably would end up just saying, I don't know, you guys, like, you could be a bum or something. I was like, hey. But in the same time, dogs are natural swimmers. So, I mean...
Yeah, but even dogs can get swept up in currents or...
Yeah, actually, I had to save one of my dogs.
And because of just their anatomy, they're not as flexible as a human, where they can, like, grasp onto something with the back arm. A dog can only grasp whatever's in front of them.
Yeah, but what if it's a dumb fuck that doesn't know how to swim? He's just swinging around, and you're just like, oh shit, fuck.
Well, you should have learned. You should have took your swimming lessons.
Damn it! That's why I told you to learn how to swim.
Nah, but I mean, there's people that just never learn. Like my kids don't know how to swim.
So if they were thrown in the water, they wouldn't know how to survive it.
Probably not. I mean, dog paddle maybe.
Oh, that's another thing too. We talk about survival. So I mean, he was talking about different aspects of surviving. That would be
swimming is also.
Swim, definitely.
Yeah. Imagine if you don't know how to swim, though. That would suck.
Hence, survive.
The way when he said that, though, to me, it was just thinking like a rat, just trying to survive like a scavenger.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I was seeing it.
But in the case with the water and saving the human or the animal, first, it would be whoever's first. Who could I save first? Because if you can save one person quicker, there might be enough time to save the other one. Whereas if you go for the longer one first, the one that's further away, it might be too late by the time you save that one to go save the other one. So I think just instincts will kick in that moment. You're not going to start to like think and scratch your chin and be like, should I save this one or that one? It's like, you ever seen this joke? It reminds me. So there's this Stoic joke where this guy was having a heart attack. And he's like, oh, quick, he's having a heart attack, quick, it's somebody help. And he's like, I'm a doctor. And then he's like, oh, and then he's like, starts talking philosophy and this and that. And she's like, but he's going to die. And then he's like, yes, but did he ever live?
What the hell?
He was not that kind of doctor. He was like a philosophical doctor, not a medical doctor. But it's like, he's died. He's like, yes, but did he ever live? But yeah, I'm gonna stick with my answer. The first one that's closest, and then I will immediately go for the other one. Because in that moment, just like you're just thinking fast. You're not going to be thinking constantly scratching your chin. I mean, there might be some people that are just freezing, like, which one? And then both of them die because you're just taking too long.
You procrastinate. You end up killing both of them.
You turn your back and walk away slowly.
Yeah, which one should I?
Okay, so I saved this one first.
And then start trying to plot it, but
you're like in your head,
losing too much time right there.
Your head, you're like doing a mathematical board and like, okay, X equals Z and this and that time frames. And
if you do save the dog and then you're still able to get the person, somehow get them back up, you probably would be able to give them CPR and maybe save them if they're not like dead.
That is true. Whereas a dog,
You might not be able to give them CPR.
although there is a way you can dog CPR. I forgot how it is.
I got something that could add on to something like that, but it goes into more in depth with not just that. When it goes like, how do you handle something you can't control? Like, imagine if you couldn't control that. You weren't in no control.
How do you handle something
that's out of your control? How do you handle that? Like, how do you physically, mentally, and emotionally handle it?
Oh, well, I've been learning and dealing with that for the past 3 years. And in Stoicism and the philosophy that I learned and I practice, or I strive to practice, I mean, I'm not perfect, but it teaches that to recognize what's in your control and recognize what's not in your control. And a lot of problems that we bring upon ourselves or stress is because we try to control things that is outside of our control, like other people, situations. Ultimately, the only thing you can really control is yourself, your thoughts and your behavior. Other than that, everything else is more of an illusion of control or no control at all. Like, you can kind of control people, but ultimately that's more manipulation because you can't really fully control their thoughts, their behavior fully because they're their own person.
Manipulating thoughts, you're saying?
Like manipulating, like you can manipulate their thoughts, but you can't fully control them because they're their own thinking person and recognize.
Oh, I get what you're saying on somebody else. But I was talking about you. Like, how would you handle that?
I handle it pretty well.
Yeah.
Although there's times where even I get frustrated just with traffic, or slow people on the road. Like I said in the previous episode, like Portland has some of the slowest, worst drivers in the country. There was an article that said Portland is top 10, I believe, of one of the cities in the country with the worst drivers.
Now, what do you mean by slow? Like not going even the speed?
No,
limit?
like I'm not talking about going the speed limit because that's the speed limit. But I'm talking about going below the speed limit and at least 5 miles per hour below the speed limit. Now that's slow. Or just the way they drive, like when they're turning a corner, they're like going really slow.
Oh.
I think it's because they smoke too much weed and Portland's
No,
also
but
known
I
for
mean,
that.
you see a pattern. I know it's a stereotype, but Prius drivers are notoriously slow. Oh my God! If you drive a Prius out there, no hating, but come on.
No.
No,
actually, no. I ran across a bunch of Prius people that smash it. They fucking really go because I feel like they're thinking that they're actually saving the planet. So if they feel, well, I'm doing something positive, fuck it, I'm smashing.
I saw a bumper sticker of a Prius once that said, "You just got passed by a Prius."
Yeah, that's crazy.
So,
what about you, bro?
I actually just got my license back in October. So, I've been told that, like, at least on turning, that I usually turn too fast. So I'm trying not to go so fast when I'm turning, but I usually just try to go the speed limit. And
he goes the same speed limit on the turn.
Boy, it said 30 miles per hour.
Man, you be hitting that corner, man.
Or I usually try not to go like more than like 5 miles over the speed limit. Partly because I have an app that tracks like my speed and stuff, so I get a discount.
Oh.
But
I'll do admit, sometimes I often go above the speed limit up to 5 miles per hour. But usually that's either to catch green lights, because in my area, because I drive it so often, I notice the patterns. And if I catch one green light, I know that I'm going to catch the rest of the green light. Whereas if I miss it and I'm at the red, then the next one's going to be red, and then the next one's going to be red. Yeah. So sometimes I do speed up to catch
What's
that.
It called? Like kind of like what Facebook does, or like Amazon algorithm or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, where it just does that, or timing on it.
And then also my car's RPM. because I read that if you keep your car's RPM between the 1 and 2, that's the most fuel economy for your car. So if the speed limit is at 30 miles per hour or 35 miles per hour and it keeps my RPM meter at the 2 mark, if I go to 40, it brings it to between 1 and 2. So I'm going faster, but because my car's working more efficiently at that speed, I go that speed, so I save on gas.
I honestly think those speed limits are just suggestions.
They're suggestions.
They're just
Suggestions.
Might
suggestions.
have something to do with that.
Yeah.
But man, there's a trend in Portland that they've been slowing down the speed limit everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
The speed bumps and
They're putting bumps everywhere.
there's
man.
bumps, and then places that were for 30 miles per hour are now 20 miles per hour. And it's like, oh, come on. And then
Yeah,
people
but
that
if I
go
were to have a
slow,
muscle
No.
car, I'll be having fun with those bumps.
nah, you'd be
You'd be flying.
you'd be flying, but you'd be putting
Where's your
serious wear and tear on your suspension.
Yeah.
You know Willamette Boulevard over here? It used to be 35, now it's 25.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn. See what I mean? And then if people go 5 miles below that, now they're going 20, where a place that used to be 30 or 35. And it's like, come on, man.
Well, I know one street that does need to fucking higher up their speed limit on Columbia. Because they have the 35 or
Oh, yeah.
and people are still going like 60 and shit.
Oh, yeah.
Man, they just need to hire that shit up.
70.
Like Lombard, I know Lombard should be a 50 to 60. Because it's a
Lombard?
long stretch. Well, not Lombard where the business is, but once you go past Taco
yeah.
Bell and it's all just like a highway,
Yeah.
there's really nothing there, but just a few businesses and stuff
Well,
and houses.
And we're talking about streets in Portland.
Streets in Portland.
Just so
Look it up,
somebody-
Lombard. Shout out to Lombard.
Nah.
But
one thing I wanted to say about how do you handle things that are out of your control? I think in a way that is kind of a survival skill, which I want to teach at my school, because it's kind of like has to do with like leadership skills and stuff that I think a lot of people should know. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
for sure.
Being able to handle stress, I think, is a
It's
skill
very-
that people should learn.
Yeah. I mean, even that's mentally. So I mean, surviving mentally
Right.
is a good way too. You don't want to just run into an issue and not knowing how to handle that. You know.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I was talking about it. Like, how can you, or how do you handle a situation that's not in your control? So, if let's say in a surviving matter, you run out of water or something, and you got no way of something to get it, you know, and how would you handle that? Like, what would you do? What's your emotions going through that? Or
Well, I hear drinking your own piss is sterile.
That's not-
What's that dude from Dodgeball? The guy who shows him how to, what's his name that shows him that what's in the wheelchair that shows him how to play dodgeball?
no, I don't know.
Neither of you guys seen Dodgeball?
I've
Come
seen
on.
dodgeball, but I can't remember. I haven't seen it for a while.
So he's all like, I drink my own urine, and it's like, not because it's sterile, but because I like the taste. He's like a crazy old man.
Yeah. No. I wonder if that's where when people taste beer, and then they're just like, oh, it tastes like piss. And I was like, damn, you tried piss before?
It's like, piss one chungo. The best beer I ever had.
But you were talking about schooling for survival. Is that something that you're like planning or something that you're doing?
Something
or?
I'm planning. I'm working on getting more training and skills for it. I'm taking a class at the end of April in Washington for it.
Yeah, I would hella support
That
that
would
because
be
I'm
so
interested
cool.
in that too.
Oh, yeah. Prepare somebody mentally, physically. I don't know about emotionally, but I mean, some people are not built for that, I guess you could say.
Well, I feel like I'm prepared spiritually, mentally, emotionally, just the physical part and the actual skills.
Yeah.
But learning
Because I mean, some
survival.
people are codependent and they rely on somebody to help them survive.
Well, that's how we are in society currently right now. We depend on
Each
food
other.
production.
Oh, yeah.
We depend on the grocery store to stock our shelves so we can buy shit because we're not going to go out in the woods and forage our own plants and vegetables and farm. Most of us don't know how to do that shit.
Yeah.
So we're dependent on the system, but I want to get to the point where I'm independent, where I know how to garden, I know how to plant stuff, I know how
Have
to
your own
hunt.
greenhouse or what?
Yeah, I know how to hunt. I want to learn that shit.
That would be good.
And hunting your own food is the cleanest, most organic you're gonna get.
Yep.
Tell that to a vegan.
A vegan about that. I read that Scientists have discovered, or they theorize, that because we ate meat, it also allowed our brains to develop the way it is now, especially cooked meat. When we cooked the meat, it allowed our brains to develop more than if we were just eating plants and vegetables. And historically, our ancestors were not vegans. So if you want to be a vegan, that's cool. But to say that humans were, not meant to eat plant or not meant to eat animals, I disagree with that. I know there's a debate on that. And I stand on the side that our ancestors, us hominids, Homo sapiens, since the beginning, we were eating meat.
Well,
I mean, even chimps, the chimpanzees and orangutans, they hunt monkeys. Did you guys see that video where it was, I think it was chimpanzees that they observed them with drones and cameras. They actually coordinated an ambush attack on monkeys.
I've seen that too.
I hadn't seen it, but I believe it. One thing I believe that all life eats life. Like even there's like carnivorous plants that eat other animals.
So vegan thing is more like an illusion, because while you're not eating an animal life, you're still eating a living organism. Right. A plant, a fruit, that is a living organism.
Right.
So yeah, life eats life. It's just more if you want to get to specifics, what kind of life.
Imagine going through that process though, when learning how to what is good to eat and what isn't, and through these history,
people like eating the wrong shit,
they end up dying or something. And that's how they found out. Oh, that's toxic. Don't eat that.
He probably like sees a plant. He calls his dumb buddy. Translation: Yo, eat this. It looks good. He picks it up. Oh, it's good. And the next, he's like, he's foaming at the mouth.
Okay, I guess not.
I guess not. Now we know.
Right.
Thanks, dude, for doing that for me.
Right.
Sacrifice. Human sacrifice right there.
Well, Wilkins gone. More food for us.
Yeah, that's a trip, man.
But while I do eat meat, and I respect people that they choose not to eat meat, but it just gets annoying when they get militant about it, and then they try to tell me how to eat and what I can or can't eat. It's one thing to advise, hey, it's not the best diet, but to say like, because I've seen some vegans online or that they get pretty hateful and militant.
Oh, they get really offensive.
Offensive.
That one woman that she like forced her dog to be vegan or pet fox to be vegan, and it's like the thing is just like becoming skin and bones. And it's
you're altering its diet. Like dogs are not herbivores; they're omnivores. They can eat, plants, vegetables, but meat. I mean, they came from wolves.
That's the shape of our teeth as well, because we got the chompers for the veggies, and then we got our canines for the meat and stuff now.
Yeah, so they say. Because, I mean, we don't have carnivore teeth, but we do, I believe, have omnivore teeth.
Yeah.
And although I do eat meat, I do believe we should try to avoid the suffering of the animal that we eat. So, like, I don't support factory farming, all those, like, the factory eggs, all that shit. Like, I try to spend the extra money.
Have you seen the videos of that on how the process of they do? And then sometimes they don't even sell, so they end up just killing all of them.
It's fucked up how they treat them in those factory farmings. Like, if anybody's curious out there, if you got a strong stomach, check out those videos of the factory farming where you get your meat, where you get your food. You want to get meat at Winco, Food for Less, or wherever you shop, a store that has cheap meat, but consider the cost of that. And once I looked up videos, I'm like, okay, let's see.
Or like how they breed chickens, like they keep the females, and then the males they grind up and use them for food for the chickens.
Oh yeah.
I saw seeing with the pigs when they have way too much. They do this pit, and then with the bulldozers they push all of the pigs down there, and then they just burn them all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then all you hear is just pigs squealing.
It's a horror show. I mean, if a race of aliens did to us humans what we do to animals in factory farming, it would be a horror movie. It would be a horror movie.
There's a Holocaust right there.
There's an artist that I came across online that illustrates if the roles were reversed. So it's like anthropomorphic animals walking, a naked human on a leash, and a human is squatting on the side of a grass, or like female mothers, human mothers in a factory with tubes tied to their breasts getting their milk pumped.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like that, yeah.
That
Or like a pig at a butcher shop with
Sounds like
cuts
a
of
parallel
fresh
universe.
human leg on display,
I've
like
seen that.
a human on display instead,
like human meat.
with an apple on his mouth,
Or like something like that, yeah. The Thanksgiving dinner, a little human like pose on the table with an apple in
that's
its
some trippy
mouth.
shit. I don't know.
But that's how
The aliens are eating around it.
But yeah, that's why like I make the effort, and as much as I can afford it, I buy pasture-raised eggs. I look for the label that's like humanely raised and whatnot, or pasture-raised cows rather than, that they're in a factory farm. And I know it's expensive, but there's a lot of people I feel can afford it, but they have their priorities wrong where they say that's too expensive, but yet they get Dubs, they got a big flat screen TV, or they got Gucci, but yet they cheap out on their food. I feel like the food should come first, because that you are what you eat.
Yeah, but have you seen that? Like, so my son is into that. He wants to eat healthy. He wants to go the natural ways and whatnot. But when he was trying to buy his food, man, it was like triple the amount of what we usually get. It's like, dude, no wonder people would go for the cheap stuff. And why were you fat? Because it's cheaper and it's affordable. But then when you want to go healthy, it costs a lot of money. So why is that when it's more natural?
Well, my take on that is that it's not that it's more expensive, it's that that's just what it actually costs, and we're just so used to cheap food because they're able to sell it for cheap because it's got cheap ingredients, so they're able to sell it at a lower price than what's the standard of actual food, and they can get a max profit.
And of course, they're gonna want us to buy like the cheap the cheeseburgers and whatnot because they don't want us to buy like the healthy food.
And it's a whole another rabbit hole that I would like to go on in another episode about health.
That is true.
Because I've learned a lot in the last few years. I'm not a doctor, but I just wanted to share what I've learned and what people can look into it for themselves. Because it's not just the healthy or not healthy, but it's just the ingredients, the additives, the chemical, and how they take a food that's natural and then they strip it of its nutrients, and then at the end result you get a packaged product that's a shell of what it really used to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Didn't you have another question?
Well, I don't even know if we have enough time.
I think we covered it, that one where you said, that kind of tied into what you were saying. Do you think it's scarier to think about how much our life is formed by things that are out of our control, or how much our life is formed by the things that are within our control?
There you go. I think that's a little bit better. Mine was just like basic, but
it's kind of similar to that saying that about space. You ever heard it? Either two scenarios are either two possibilities in the universe, both equally terrifying. Either we are alone in the universe, or that we are not alone in the universe.
Oh yeah.
Where do you fall? For you, what's more terrifying? That we're alone in the universe, or that we're not alone?
I think it'd be more terrifying if we were alone in the universe, like
right, because this is it.
Yep, this is
it. This experiment.
That is true. I mean, yeah, I could actually agree with that, but in the same time, like if we, I mean, you can't be afraid of. Let's say if we're not the only ones. Now we don't know this other species or kind or whatever. So what are they capable of? Now other fears come in play as well.
Well, I believe that at least some of those species out there have to be friendly. So
what if they're not?
Well, I mean, there might be some that aren't, but I mean, we have to go and find out, I think.
Yeah.
We have to find
or if we
ourselves.
even will encounter them in the span of the human existence.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's just...
That could be actually one thing that will help us maybe get our shit together. Like in Star Trek, when they met the Vulcans, that was one thing that finally started making them be like...
more civilized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people fear aliens, but we tend to, like how you're saying, project what we hate, but what's within ourselves, right? So we tend to think of, like in movies, sci-fi, it's a classical alien invasion coming hostile, but that's something we would do, but that's not necessarily what another life organism from a different galaxy that grew up differently. They might come to learn or to show us a better way or been observing us.
Yeah, never know.
And with that, that's a wrap for episode 3. And I just want to end it on a quote that tied into the change in the world by a quote by Steve Jobs. The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. And I believe that.
What if they're crazy and then they end up changing it for the fucking worse?
Well, I mean crazy in the sense that it's considered crazy to think.
What if all the crazy start coming out and they're just running around everywhere?
Because changing the world for the better is considered a fantasy by many. It's a fantasy, man. We're never going to get to a utopia, and we may never will, but we can always make it better than it is.
Yeah, no, for reals though. That's true.
Definitely.
Definitely. And I would love to have you back as a guest sometime, Rob.
Thank you very much. I'd love to be back.
Yeah, if you have any thoughts or anything you want to talk about, let us know. I mean, we're more than welcome to hear and ask some more questions too, because that's all we're filled with.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love questions.
Oh, yeah, me too. And we love your questions out there, listeners. You got questions for us or answers to the questions?
Topics.
Let us know. I also recently started a Facebook community group. Check that out. Information is in the show description.
Yeah.
Just let us know what you think of the show, or just stop by and just say hello.
Yeah, don't even be afraid. Throw some comments in there. I know some people are shy or going to be judged, but no, nobody's going to get judged.
Don't be afraid. Be a friend.
Just
Shout out to Eric and his podcast, the North Portland Mexican Podcast. I had the honor to be a guest. Definitely check that out for all you guys interested if you want to, and check his podcast out if you want to hear Portland stories of people growing up in Portland, the North Portland Mexican Podcast Show. And I want to give it a shout out and much love to my gente in SB and the 805 area and the rest of California. Thank you for checking out this podcast, giving it a listen. Highly appreciate it. Tlazo Kamati. Thank you. Take care of yourselves out there and each other, people.
Peace.
Peace.